It's fall in Minnesota, end of October. It's actually the 31st today, and it's time to prune the fruit trees. So here's the first tree we're going to tackle, and I've already pruned my fruit trees quite a bit so you can see that they're properly balanced. Now the technique is called 3/3. So the first third is going to be your stalk, and you can see, like, compared to my hand, how big the stalk is. You want 1/3 of your tree to be stalk only, and then you have to decide which are your load-bearing branches. So these are load-bearing branches, and they're going to cover the weight of the top, which is all the greens and the fruit. So the idea is, if you trim this in 3/3, is you get stalk, which will grow nice and fat and stable. You'll get your load-bearing branches, which you have to constantly be cleaning all the suckers off of, and then these will grow big and strong. And then the top third, so this is your second third, and your top third is whatever happens. It's all the greens and the fruit. That way the fruit won't be so heavy that it'll snap any load-bearing branches that are here. So you can see that I've already done that, and it's a nice big fat stalk, nice heavy load-bearing branches here. And you can kind of, it's pretty visual. If you want to, like, you don't want it to be ugly and you don't want it to look silly, so you gotta just decide what you want it to look like. And this is a healthy pear tree, so that's kind of done. And then over here, this is kind of a mess. This is my peach tree, and I get a lot of peaches, and they're very heavy. And I have been cutting all the suckers off the base here to get a nice big fat stalk. And then I've been kind of cutting the load-bearing branches, all the extras off of there. Like, here's one that doesn't need to be here. Cut that off. And then the greens and the fruit will be supported by the heavy load-bearing branches. Now, one of the branches, this is kind of one that I just cut off earlier this year because I didn't want to cut anything while the fruit was on there, but I'm going to cut this off here because it just doesn't look right. So I'm going to pretty much have stalk up to here to the main knot, and then all the load-bearing branches will come off there. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit, and then I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, I just finished trimming this, and we have stalk and then load-bearing branches and then greens. So my plan is for these ones here to grow bigger and thicker from here to here, and then greens. Same with here, 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 just like these ones did here, there, there, and there. So all the suckers come off of here, all the suckers come off here and here, and over time those load-bearing branches will get thicker and thicker and support the weight of the fruit, because I get a lot of peaches on this tree. Now this is my hawthorn tree, and I'll try to pull a clip out from a video this summer of what that looks like with the leaves on it. That's my hawthorn tree. You can see that I cut that into a bonsai formation. I cut all the branches that grow downward, so everything is growing in an upward position. Get a close up here. And here I did the stalk here, nice and thick, load-bearing branches, and I cut all the suckers off all the way to here and here, and I cut, and then all the greens and leaves are, and the berries are on the top third. Alright, this is a maple tree, and I'm going to do sort of the same thing with that. I already started down here. The bottom third is just stalk, and then the second third is going to be load-bearing branches here, and then the top third is going to be most of the tree, which is all the greens, or this time of year, reds. And I'll clean everything that's like all the suckers all the way up to about here. That way you get big, strong, load-bearing branches that support everything else. Now this is a snowy mountain ash tree over the pond, and I did that same technique here. I have the first third is the stalk, the second third is the load-bearing branches, nice and thick and clean, and then the top third is all what was greens and fruit, but it's fall so everything fell off already. And that will grow nice and healthy and nice strong arms to hold everything up. Alright, with these three little apple trees out back here, you can see I just finished. I have my stalk on the first third, load-bearing branches on the second third, and then the greens and fruit is going to be the top third. And you just got to think about how many strong arms you want it to come off the base. So I left this little guy here, and that'll grow bigger and bigger and bigger because the energy is not going to go to the suckers, it'll go to the branches. And I figure maybe I'll let this one grow out. That way it ends up becoming a nicely balanced looking tree. Over here, this one is finished, and we have stalk, the first third. The second third is load-bearing branches. And then I thought maybe I'd let this branch grow out here and there, and then everything else is greens and fruit on the top third. That looks good. And then this one, here's another good example. I have stalk, and then here's the main junction. I have load-bearing branches coming up and out there, and then greens and fruit will be on the top. And that looks pretty good. And these are double in size. These are tiny little trees. I think I paid $14 a piece for these, so that'll be a nice investment. And then in the back here, I'll show you apple trees. So I've already pruned these before. I have my stalk up here, my load-bearing branches coming out, and then I have the greens and fruit on top, as you can see. Now I just need to cut off the suckers. Like here's a sucker here that doesn't need to be there. I'll clean that up all the way out to the first junction here, and I'll clean all these little suckers off here that grew over the year. And these are all suckers right here. See how much nicer that looks now? That nice strong arm supporting the weight of the greens and fruit. So I'll finish pruning that. And then over here I have a weeping crabapple tree, and you can see I cut that in a downward formation so that everything that grows up I cut off, so it's like nice and weepy. And you can see the suckers are coming up over the top. There's some suckers here. I'll cut those off. These are all suckers growing up, so I'll clean that off next. And then this is a purely decorative tree. I do get little fruits out of that, little crab apples. There's the finished weeping crabapple tree. Kind of cool looking. And then there's a cherry tree back there. I'll do that. Same thing there. Load bearing, the arms, and then the fruit on top. And here's another cherry tree back there. And then all these plum trees here. I'll go and take off these support brackets here that I was using, and I'll cut off all these suckers that are growing. All the load-bearing branches are supporting the fruit on top, so we'll keep up with that theme. This here is another apple tree. You can see what a really nice formation this is. A nice big thick stalk, and then these are my chosen load-bearing branches here, which I've already been pruning over the years, and then all the greens and fruit are supported by that. And here's another plum tree, perfect example. I have my big thick stalk, this is the first third. The second third is my load-bearing branches coming off of that. And I've already cut all the suckers off that. And that looked nice. And then the top third is greens and fruit. Here's another little baby one, just a real cheap one I got on clearance. It's a little plum tree, and I'm training that. Stock, load-bearing branches, fruit. This one's kind of sad looking, but it was super cheap, and I think it was in the bargain rack. Oh, here's my contorted filbert tree. I have that supported with some pipes here. That's just purely a decorative tree. And then I have a Colorado blue spruce right here. And that kind of matches the one over here. It's huge on that side of the shed. Those are my trees. That's how I prune them and get nice strong branches to support all my fruit in the backyard. So we got apples, plums, cherries, peaches, and pears here in Minnesota.